All right, so you're gonna need the Understanding Word Problems packet. And then I also gave you a packet that has like 4 squares on each page, and then it says keep stapled together. What you're going, and the reason why I want you to do that is because you'll notice that on all these pages, we don't actually have a word problem, right? So these are a collection of word problems that we will go through. All I did was slice like the side, and then I cut out square 1. I don't need that top part that says whole number word problems. And so then like my page is still intact, you know, I'm not gonna lose these pieces and it's still together, okay? This is what you're left with, and just tape it or glue it right there like I have, okay? So this is problem number 1, and we are gonna put it on page number 1. All right, so you'll notice also that these are numberless because I don't want us focusing just on the numbers. I want us to focus on, most important, understanding what actions we'll take in order to solve the problem in the future. Right now, I just want us to be able to know what we're gonna find out, establish what we already know, be able to represent it, know what our key action will be, and then give as best of an explanation as we can of like how we would solve this, okay? All right, so it says, Brittany collected marbles. She wants to split the marbles up evenly into plastic containers. How many marbles should be in each container? What do we need to find out? Well, I see a question word. I also see a question mark. So that is a big clue that this is telling us what we need to find out. And it says how many marbles should be in each container. That's what we want to find out. Put question mark there. Now we want to figure out what we already know. And we do know information, even though we don't have numbers right now. We know what information we will use together in order to answer this question. So if you think about it, you want to place marbles inside a certain amount of containers. And then you want to know how many marbles end up in those containers. Well, the most important thing to determine is how many marbles are you starting with? Because that's going to impact what our answer would be here. So we know that she has collected marbles. Right now we don't know how much, but we know that she has a certain amount of marbles, right? So we can say she has blank marbles. And so eventually we'll have a number there, okay? So this is giving us information here. She started off with an amount. And then I see she wants to split the marbles evenly into containers. So that will be something else that we know. That makes sense, right? You have something you're starting with, and then you're going to split it up or share it, right? We don't know how many containers yet, because that will be the other thing that impacts it. The fewer containers we have, the more marbles that will go in it. But if you're going to split it evenly across more containers, then there will be less marbles inside each. So I want to kind of take a look at some vocab, some language that will also give us like a clue of what's happening with our actions. And so I see this word evenly. And when I see evenly, that tells me same amount or equally. So we're not going to have it to where one container has 4 marbles, for example, and another container only has 3. It has to be the same amount inside each container. So a way that we could represent this, and this is just going to be one way that we're going to start with right now, is we can still use the the Math Mountain idea, okay? So the top part would be what our total is that we're starting with, okay? So we have a certain amount of marbles. And we're going to split them up into a certain amount of containers. We don't know how many yet, but this would be our first container, right? 1 container. I'm going to use CONT as an abbreviation for that, okay? Per container. 2 containers. And we're going to keep going. And we're not sure what that final amount of containers will be. But essentially, imagine this being a collection of marbles, and you're taking out a marble and putting it inside each one, right? So I'm going to look down here at my key actions, and based on some of the information that we've been given, figure out which action I'll take. So am I joining or combining groups? Well, if I'm going to join or combine, that sounds like something's going to be added to, or an amount is going to increase. And the more that I take out of these marbles, my starting point is actually getting smaller, right? So we will not join or combine. And then over here, we see another action that says join equal groups. Now be careful, because we do see the word equal groups, but again, we just talked about how we're not joining, we're not making something increase in an amount. Okay. So now we're left with, are we separating, comparing, or are we splitting equal groups? Now technically, we are separating, right? We have a starting amount of marbles, and we're going to separate these marbles into containers. But we have a word up here. We have that word evenly. And that tells me we're going to do this equally. So while we could separate or compare, not compare, sorry, but just separate, I see over here it says split equal groups. So this is going to be a faster version of that. I see that equal groups. This will be how we figure that out, okay? So right here, what I'm going to do is just put like a division sign here. And then we can kind of give ourselves a little clue. We're going to split equal groups. If that doesn't fit in there for you, you can just put it somewhere over to the side. We're just really giving ourselves plenty of information in our representation so that we know what to do. Now I'm going to try to put this into words of how we would explain it so that when we do eventually come back to it, our explanation helps us solve it. Okay. So we know that we are going to take our amount that we're starting with. So we can say we'll take the amount of marbles that we're starting with, or we can take the amount of marbles, we'll say that has been collected, or that Brittany has. Maybe we put it that way. And we just said we're gonna keep splitting them, right? And split them into the containers. And the containers must have the same amount, right? And I'm really trying hard not to just focus on the symbol of divide. I want us to understand what that actually means. That it's meaning you're breaking apart a starting amount and you're putting it into equal groups. So unlike multiplication, where we start with equal groups and then we join them, now we have a set amount and we're actually going to break them apart into equal groups. So we'll just leave it at that right now since we don't actually have an amount. When we do come to solving this for real, then I can show you some options about how we do that, okay? Because depending on your comfort level with separating and splitting equal groups, there's a couple different ways that we can think about this. And then I also gave you those math manipulatives yesterday. The bag, the Ziploc bag that has like the base 10 blocks and then the number tiles, and we can use those to help us represent this as well and to help us solve that. So make sure those get cut up, okay? So that needs to get filled out so that we can return to this, okay? And that's it.